Welcome to Soccer Morning on World Soccer Talk. Here's your host, Jason Davis.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome into Soccer Morning, worldsoccertalk.com for just 2 more days, today and tomorrow. Well, we are here, Soccer Morning on the air on a Thursday. Very happy to have you. Hope your Thursday morning is going well. Got your coffee. Looking ahead to a big weekend of soccer. We'll definitely touch more on that tomorrow. We can do some of that today. We've got a full round of soccer news to go through. And then Tom Marshall, Mexico World Cup on Twitter. You know him, you love him. He covers the Mexican game as well as anybody. He'll join us at 9:10 a.m. Eastern to talk about several issues coming out of the Mexican soccer world, not just the state of the Clausura tournament as it gets rolling along here, but also comments from Juan Carlos Osorio in relation to Mexicans and MLS. Also the push for the FMF to get into a more American markets to find Mexican-American talent. Colorado going after Alan Pulido and perhaps the failure there. We'll touch on all of that with Tom Marshall, so stick around. You're definitely going to want to hear that conversation. Tom is absolutely brilliant every time he's on the air. Let's go to the news so he can get ready for Tom. We have plenty of time to talk to him because we're also going to take your phone calls on a Thursday. The Portland Timbers have signed head coach Caleb Porter to a contract extension. Porter guided Portland to the 2015 MLS Cup title in his 3rd season on the job. Timbers boss compiled the league's 4th best point total over his time in Portland. This is the right move. There is absolutely no question about it. You go and you win an MLS Cup, and you're as young and on the up as Caleb Porter. You should absolutely give this guy a contract. Merritt Paulson doing the right thing here by his head coach. A guy, again, who learned on the job, 40 years old, so still young, still lots of years left in him. It's going to be interesting to see Gavin Wilkinson saying in a statement, Caleb is one of the top coaches in MLS, and the progress and accomplishments the club have realized over the last 3 seasons under his direction speak for themselves. Stability is a key thing with the Portland Timbers. Obviously, they started out with John Spencer, but they do have now with Gavin Wilkinson, with Merritt Paulson, with the president of the club, they have some stability there. 5 years in MLS, 1 GM, 1 president of business operations, and a head coach going into his 4th season. Top pros plus time to build. That's what Merritt Paulson tweeted yesterday, celebrating the news of Caleb Porter signing a contract extension. Good stuff in Portland. Newcastle have signed winger Andros Townsend from Tottenham. I'll trip over myself a little bit more. £12 million fee for Andros Townsend. He's got 10 England caps, so an international resume there for the 24-year-old who signs a 5-year contract with the Magpies. He made just 3 substitute appearances for Tottenham in the Premier League this season. Obviously pushed out for some other talent. A player that Tottenham brought along through their academy, but was out on loan, I think, 9 different times before eventually getting into the senior squad at Spurs. And even now, there's no room for him. But Newcastle has a need, and they see an opportunity with a winger to come in and help them potentially get out of the relegation zone there in the northeast of England. Fox Sports has secured the rights to the Copa America Centenario tournament set to take place in the United States this summer. That's across multiple platforms, or however they say it. All 32 matches of the tournament will be televised live across Fox, Fox Sports 1, and Fox Sports 2, so 3 different networks available for Fox to put on games. The games will also be available digitally, and I don't know about the subscription issue there with Fox, because they do have Fox Sports to go or go. I'm not a subscriber. We'll look into that. Obviously, if you don't have a cable subscription and access to Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2, you're going to miss out on this tournament unless you get it digitally, and that's going to probably cost you a little bit of money. We'll see. Full pregame and postgame coverage announced by Fox in their press release. This it was expected, but it took a little bit longer maybe to get done officially than some people thought. Jonathan Tannenwald, of course, always has details on the broadcast issues with soccer in the United States. Maybe we'll talk to him in the near future about Fox getting this deal done. The LA Galaxy have officially announced the signing of former Chelsea and Roma fullback Ashley Cole to a non-DP contract. Cole made 13 appearances for Roma during the 2014-15 season. He joins former England teammate Steven Gerrard at the Galaxy. Bruce Arena said, quote, "I think he's a good addition to our team, but only time will tell. Whether you think it's a risk or a gamble, these are the risk and gambles that you take. There is a real upside of having Ashley Cole with the LA Galaxy." Now, most of the reaction, especially from the Galaxy faithful, to this signing was negative. I don't know what his salary is going to be, but again, if he's not a DP, that means he can't hit the salary more than $400,000 or so. Incredibly experienced player. Whether he's fit, I mean, Arena says he is, but whether he's fit and ready to go remains to be seen. And of course, this is the player who just last year said, "I have offers from America, but I'm not ready to go go lay on a beach yet and retire." So he has impugned the reputation of MLS, and now he's signing with the LA Galaxy. We'll see what happens. I mean, Ashley Cole is a name. I don't think he necessarily sells tickets in LA, but he brings, again, a wealth of experience to go alongside Steven Gerrard and Van Damme and some of the other signings that they've had there in Los Angeles. Manchester City downed Everton 3-1 at the Etihad yesterday to secure a place in the Capital One Cup final. They win the tie 4-3 on aggregate. The Citizens will face Liverpool at Wembley in the League Cup final on February 28th. The game delivered plenty of controversy with the ball clearly out before Raheem Sterling crossed to Kevin De Bruyne for City's equalizer in the 70th minute. Sergio Aguero went on to score City's third goal that put them in the final. Roberto Martinez very upset after the fact about the failure to identify the ball as out before Raheem Sterling's cross. It's been a bad couple of days for linesmen. I'm going to put this on linesmen. In England, we had the clear offside goal. What game was that with the offside goal? I'm trying to remember. The other day it was whatever. We talked about it yesterday on this show. It just flat out went out of my brain. There was an offside goal scored by Stoke. That's what it was, against Liverpool in the League Cup semifinals as well, which ultimately led to the penalty shootout. There it was. It was in there somewhere. I just had to pull it out. Hopefully I'll be able to pull out some stuff about Mexican soccer, because we're going to talk to our friend Tom Marshall in just a minute about all things Mexican soccer. Absolutely discuss Juan Carlos Osorio, former MLS head coach, telling Mexican players in their prime not to play in MLS. Soccer Morning, Sirius XM. Nope, that's not right. I did it again. Soccer Morning, WorldSoccerTalk.com. Be right back.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on World Soccer Talk with Jason Davis.
All right, we're back on Soccer Morning. Happy to be joined on the telephone by a good friend of the show, Tom Marshall. You can follow him on Twitter at Mexico World Cup. He writes things up on the Mexican game all over the place and occasionally appears on television as well. Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm good, Jason. Yes, a bit colder than usual down here, but I'm sure I can't complain compared to those on the East Coast at the minute.
No. Not only can you not complain, I'm looking at a mound of about 6 feet of snow that's been piled up, and it's 18 degrees here Fahrenheit, Tom. So
No,
yeah, you don't have anything. You can't get anything on me. All right, so let's talk about first. I think I don't want to put the label controversial on these comments because I don't think they really are. But certainly there's going to be a pretty vibrant reaction from American soccer fans and MLS fans when they hear that Juan Carlos Osorio, Mexico's head coach, obviously a former coach in MLS, is telling Mexican players or says to the media, I've told Mexican players not to go to MLS in their prime. What do you make of this, Tom?
I think Osorio's being really honest. Actually, I'm surprised because in all of his press conferences so far, he's been very, very careful with absolutely everything he says. I think he's kind of understood the way the Mexican press work and how they jump on things, and then all of a sudden he's come out with this comment about MLS. And obviously, as a former coach of Chicago Fire and New York Red Bull, he knows how it works up there. And I think he's been very honest. I think I think he's come out, he's been honest, and obviously there's a reaction in the States. But I think the people in MLS, I don't think it's a massive surprise for them, and I can't see it changing much. You know what I mean?
No, I think that this is it's an acknowledgement, if everybody's being honest with themselves, that Mexico wants their best players in their prime to be playing at the highest level. This is no different than Jurgen Klinsmann, certainly. Now, there's a difference in whether or not Jurgen Klinsmann has to be supportive of the American League. Juan Carlos Osorio has no such requirement.
No, and I'm sure, the thing is, I think the real key here is that, I'm not sure Osorio could say this about Mexico, but I'm pretty sure he thinks it, because Osorio is somebody who thinks deeply about the game. It's not somebody who just comes out with his comments. He's thought these through. He knows what he wants from his players, and it's true. He wants his best players playing in Europe. He wants them to play in the best leagues, playing week in, week out at the highest level possible, so that they elevate their level, which elevates the national team. I think it's a very clear kind of line of thinking. But in the Mexican context, obviously, at the minute we've had so many rumours over the last few months of even Chicharito and MLS, Carlos Vela especially. He's the big one, which is not just a kind of random rumour, but a lot of strong interest there and it seemed like from both sides, it seemed like that was very close. So, for Osorio to come out and actually talk about Vela's situation and say, when I was in Europe, I spoke to Vela and I expressed exactly what I'm saying, which is, MLS is something you should be basically thinking about further down the line.
It's interesting to quote. Now, again, this is obviously a translated quote, Tom, and it's in your piece over at ESPN FC for people who want to read about Osorio's comments. I believe that when a footballer is in his peak, he should play in Europe and not MLS. That's was from a recent interview that he did, not necessarily at a press conference. The interesting thing is what you just said is he couldn't say it about the Mexican League, and yet he didn't identify the Mexican League in that. He's clearly referencing the situations of Vela and maybe Giovanni Dos Santos and some other players. But he's not. He's saying go to Europe to everybody, not just the ones that are flirting with MLS, but the ones who are clearly in Liga MX.
No, yeah, completely. Yeah, I think it's something that's difficult. It's obviously more difficult to say about the Mexican League, but it's what Osorio wants. I think that we're seeing recently as well a real really positive period for Mexicans in Europe as well, with players like Tecatito Corona looking like they could break out in a major way. Obviously, Chicharito is banging in goals in Europe. Marco Fabian's just had a really good debut for Eintracht Frankfurt. So I think he wants his players over there. That's not saying he wants everybody to go at every minute, because I think he was also very clear in saying, look, I'm not criticising Giovanni Dos Santos for going. He said, I've not spoken to Giovanni about the exact circumstances in which he decided to go there. I don't know, so I'm not going to criticise. I'm not going to give an opinion on that. All I am saying is, in general, that young players should be hoping to go from Mexico to Europe to play in the best leagues. And the other thing that I point out, Jason, I think is interesting is, I think regardless, obviously Osorio does have an influence, no doubt about it, as the national team coach, but the fundamental issues there that are attracting Mexican players to MLS, that have attracted Giovanni, that have obviously turned Carlos Vela's head. I mean, Carlos Vela, it'll be so fascinating to see what he does with in the next 6 months. They're still there. I mean, they get good money. They live in very, very good cities. The difference in terms of them going to Los Angeles and going to Monterrey is vast in terms of the pressure from the media.
Yep.
In terms of the not being able to go out and stuff. I mean, it'd be very difficult for Giovanni Dos Santos or Vela to go out to a shopping centre in Monterrey and not be kind of mobbed.
Yeah.
Which is huge for a player. I mean, they're only people at the end of the day.
Yeah, we've heard that from European players. Clearly, it applies to Mexican players as well, and even more for Mexican players, Tom. I mean, certainly in a place like Los Angeles or maybe in Chicago or New York, there is less of the cultural issues they may face going to a place, going to Europe, aren't necessarily there. I mean, it's pretty easy for Giovanni Dos Santos to go through an entire day without having to worry about using his English. Now, not that his English is bad, but understand what I'm saying from a comfort standpoint, from a lifestyle standpoint. Food, everything else is available to a guy like Giovanni Dos Santos. Speaking of him, I know Osorio has ruled him out of the friendly against Senegal. Is that because of the MLS issue? Is there something else going on with Dos Santos?
I mean, that's the big question, and Osorio's been very careful so far to state that he wasn't in the first Osorio call-up, and the manager said it was because he wasn't fit. But he actually played in the MLS playoffs before the Mexico game, so it's like he was clearly fit to play. So there's a big question mark why he hasn't called Giovanni Dos Santos up for that game, and then for the game in next month. Giovanni said a week ago, if I'm not mistaken, that, if he's called up, he's ready to go. And then this week in the press conference on Monday, Osorio said, no, I've spoken to Giovanni, and Giovanni has ruled himself out, basically. He said he knows he's not going to be 100% because obviously he's in pre-season, so he's ruled himself out. So just the very fact that Osorio hasn't sat down face-to-face yet with Giovanni Dos Santos, they've spoken on the phone, but he's been in now since, October? Juan Carlos Osorio. You've got a player in Giovanni who's been an absolute stalwart of this Mexican national team for 8-9 years now. And for him, and Los Angeles isn't exactly difficult to get to from Mexico City. I mean, I don't know how many flights there are a day. So I do find it slightly strange that they haven't found the time yet to sit down.
And this is what's interesting to me is that, with the track record of the Dos Santos family, they're not the ones to be quiet if they have an issue. Now, I know Jonathan has his place, and maybe Pops doesn't want to rock the boat right now, Tom, but the Dos Santos family has never been one to hold their tongue when they're not happy with something at the national team level.
No, and I mean, it's going to be very interesting. I mean, I think there's a bit of leeway, and I think that Mexico, I've got obviously the qualifiers in March against Canada, and Osorio actually said in the press conference, he said, Giovanni's not going to be in this February, but we're looking at March, so it's going to be fascinating to see how he goes. I mean, at the end of the day, he'll be only just starting his season in MLS, and then you've got a player like, say Marco Fabian, who's been on the fringe for so long, who's just started well in Germany. Let's see how he does in the next few weeks. But there is a competition for Giovanni as well. And the other problem with Giovanni in the national team is Osorio said he doesn't know where he plays.
Yeah.
Giovanni says he wants to play as a number 10, but Osorio's saying we don't have that position, so I don't know where he's going to play. Again, this is the type of thing that Osorio needs to speak to Giovanni about face to face.
Sure.
But he hasn't, and he's been in there like a good few months now.
Give me a sense then, Tom, of what sort of options Osorio has, because even if there's not a spot for a number 10 or with a spot for Giovanni Dos Santos as a number 10. If I'm running the national team of Mexico, I wouldn't mind having Giovanni Dos Santos on my bench.
Yeah, no, no, definitely. I mean, up front, obviously, Chicharito, Oribe Peralta, Raul Jimenez. Then you've got Tecatito Corona, who can also play there. Am I missing out here? And obviously...
Well, that's pretty good depth. That's pretty good depth right there that you've identified. So, yeah, there are numerous options.
Yeah, no, there's options. I mean, Giovanni, I agree. I mean, off the bench, and obviously Vela as well, who's those are the four strikers for the kind of two positions. So yeah, it is a struggle, but I mean, Giovanni's good enough to be in that. I mean, Oribe Peralta's not played well for the last few months. I mean, it's a difficult one, and you know, if you were to make a judgment call and say, is there something more to it, you'd have to say yeah. You'd have to say that Osorio isn't a big fan of Giovanni Dos Santos. I mean, Ferretti as well didn't call him up before that. So then you question, did something happen at the Gold Cup?
No.
You know, obviously all the stuff with Miguel Herrera. You know, it's speculation that, but I mean, he hasn't been called up now since July, and there's two different managers that have come and gone. So is there more to it? It's difficult to say, but everything points in that direction.
So Giovanni Dos Santos, obviously, a coup signing for MLS. You know, a specific set of circumstances. LA is probably a major part of it. The city of Los Angeles, the Galaxy themselves, and Giovanni and his options at the time. Since then, we've had, you mentioned Carlos Vela and his potential move. I'm guessing that's cooled off. Haven't heard anything in a while, but the name that's been popping up is Alan Pulido. And apparently, based on what I've read, Tom, and you can fill me in here, he flat out turned down MLS.
From what I was hearing, that Pulido was very, very close. I mean, extremely close to coming. And what's been really, really interesting is that in the last, say, 10 days, he started playing for Olympiacos. He's played in the league and he scored a goal. So, I mean, what I think has happened is he's spoken to the manager over there and he said, look, stay, we're going to give you some chances, because in the first half of the season he hardly played at all. So obviously he was suffering there, but all of a sudden he's playing now. So I don't know exactly what's gone on there, but I know from what I was hearing that he was. I mean, I think it's out there as well. I mean, the stories are out there. He was very close to joining MLS, and then now he's playing at Olympiacos. So I think he knows he's getting some more minutes, and it's obviously put it off for the time being.
Well, and so obviously the timing of Osorio's comments probably not coincidental with Pulido considering it, and again whatever situation is out there with Carlos Vela.
No, yeah, I mean, he was asked directly about Giovanni and Vela, so he was responding to what he thinks about. That was the context of the question in this newspaper interview. So he was very directly saying that. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if the players are actually taking that into account, because, you know, Mexico is obviously, it's a strong national team, but it's not Argentina, it's not Brazil in terms of depth. So, and there's still only a handful of players in Europe. So if a player like Vela went to MLS, would he still be in the national team? I don't think Osorio has the luxury of overlooking players like Vela and eventually Giovanni Dos Santos when he's, you know, fully fit and on form.
Well, I mean, not that I'm wishing it happened, but it would be interesting to see Carlos Vela, who for a long time was ostracized from the national team or kept himself out of the national team because of whatever issues, and only to see him get back in and then a move to MLS, eliminating him from consideration again. That would be ironic, I guess, in a lot of ways, Tom.
It'd be pretty funny, but I don't think Osorio, as the type of person he is, would do that. I don't. He's very kind of. He thinks it through, and if he thinks players can do a job, I'm 100% sure that they pick him. I think just quickly, another interesting thing is the other side of Mexican players going to MLS. You know, the Cubo Torres, the younger players. I think that MLS could potentially become a really attractive proposition for younger Mexican players. I mean, down here right now, there's a massive debate about naturalized players, about foreign-born players in the Liga MX. and the way it kind of limits opportunities for young Mexican players, homegrown players. So I don't know. You look at Carlos Salcedo. I know he had to come back to Mexico to eventually play, but you look at how he developed, and the fact you can 100% tell that he was developed outside of Mexico, at least for a while. And you look at Cubo Torres and the path he's gone, and you think, I don't know. I just think that there could be an opportunity there for MLS clubs as well. And I don't know what some people think about that, but that's another interesting kind of strand of movement in the transfer market to follow.
What seems clear, Tom, and wherever whatever their provenance, whether they come out of Mexico, born, raised, and get an opportunity in MLS to develop, or if they're Mexican-American extraction and go down to Mexico or whatever, there's clearly a lot of Mexican-American talent or Mexican talent to be had between the two countries. And it's going to be fascinating to see how these teams, and look, the Mexican teams have the advantage of money in most cases, more established academies, certainly the cultural pull on a lot of Mexican players whose parents and grandparents have attachments to regions and clubs. But the MLS teams can get at least certainly some of the overflow or position themselves to do better in sort of attracting some of these players, if they can prove that they're a launching pad for a career.
Yes, I mean it's a big issue, the issue of Mexican Americans, and the Mexican Federation on Monday announced the goals for 2016, and one of the plans of action, actually it was number 2 on the list, was heavier scouting in the United States. So that tells you everything about the priorities of the Mexican Federation. I think they're going to send more scouts to the United States. Obviously, it'll be mainly the national teams kind of looking for potential players. I mean, you look at every Mexico youth national team now, under 23, under 20s, under 17s, and there's always 1, 2, or more Mexican Americans in there. And I think they think that should be a higher percentage.
Yeah.
It's an amazingly attractive market for not just the federation but for Mexican clubs, and you've got a lot of clubs now setting up academies, obviously scouting regularly up there, and bringing players down. I mean, there's a lot of players now in youth systems in Mexico that are obviously from the States. So I just think that they think it's a gold mine. Mexican clubs think it's a gold mine because they think it's an under-scouted area, whereas you get a place like, say, where I live in Guadalajara, you've got 2 professional teams in the first division, you've got a third division team, you've got Leon, which is 3 hours away, and Morelia 5 hours. You've got, a number of teams in the area. So if you look at it, it's a highly scouted area. It's difficult to find new kids from this area. And the same with Mexico City, you've got, 3 first division clubs, and they're all scouting heavily, and then other teams will scout there as well. And then you look at the States, and you look at a place like Nevada, a heavy Mexican American population in certain cities, and you think, and Mexican clubs are thinking it absolutely makes sense to go up there and see what's available.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, not just in terms of the under the radar stuff for most fans. I mean, the scouts going back and forth across the border. And as you said, the FMF, Santiago Baños, saying that their priority is to get more scouts into the United States. I think American fans are like, oh my gosh, aren't they already kind of taking all of our best Mexican-American talent? Are they only going to take more? And it's certainly, it's sort of ominous for American clubs, but at the same time, American clubs need to be prodded into doing a better job of finding this talent. And there's the fact, Tom, that you just can't cover. I find it almost impossible to imagine that the number of professional clubs we have here can cover the entire country and find all of the talent that's available. Better that talent develop somewhere than be lost. And, look, if it becomes Mexican national team talent, yeah, that's a loss for the United States. But there is the off chance that a player who goes down to Mexico, as long as they don't join Chivas, could become an American and international as well, right?
I think it actually would be quite interesting to draw, the players that are Mexico-based young U.S. citizens, who are mainly Mexican-American, mainly dual nationals. It'd be very interesting to see how many have gone for each team, because I don't think there's a very strong correlation between playing in Mexico, playing in the Liga MX youth systems, and playing for Mexico. I think the U.S. have actually done a really, really good job keeping track of these players, because it's really not easy, because the League of MX, the website's not very good. It's very difficult to ascertain where these players are from. So I think that the US soccer has done an excellent job in terms of scouting. I mean, it is difficult. I mean, last night I was at Chivas and I saw Alonso Hernandez, a young kid who's been involved in US national teams before, and it's like, so I think they are keeping track on players like that. And so, yeah, I agree. I think the ideal would be that these players are playing for MLS in MLS youth systems and then getting the opportunity, because I think that's the key. I think there has to be that link between being in the development academies and then getting the opportunity.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think that, kids don't see that, whereas Mexican American kids don't see that in MLS, whereas in the League of MX, is it difficult? Yeah, it's unbelievably tough. I mean, you've got players who are absolutely desperate to make it, and I'm talking, maybe come from backgrounds that border on poverty-stricken. I mean, that's the Mexican reality. And so Mexican American kids come down here, and that is the competition. But you come down here as a 16-year-old, you're in the under-17s. Okay, under-17s, what comes next? Maybe second division, third division, under-20s, and then all of a sudden you see the first team, and you know that if you're in an under-20s and doing well, you'll get called to train with the first team, and then if you take your opportunity, you're in the first team. So is it easy? No, but I think players like the idea, especially Mexican American players, of having that kind of very streamlined process of knowing under-17s, under-20s first team. They can see the way it's going to go. But it's not easy. I mean, I spoke to Marco Garces at Pachuca recently, and he said, Mexican American players a lot of the time, they do struggle down here. He said, there isn't the nice shopping mall that necessarily there is in the States. They don't have the beach next door to them if they're from Southern California. It's tough. They live in small rooms, shared accommodation. It's not an easy life. But it toughens you up, and if you do make it, then I'm sure they'll be better off for it.
Yeah, MLS teams and American soccer in general needs to do a better job of showing that there's a path the same way that the Mexican clubs have done, and get some coaches who are willing. And certainly we see it with Oscar Pareja in Dallas, and certainly New York is making a big effort with their homegrown players to bring through that young talent and give them an opportunity to play. There's too much conservatism in American coaching, certainly. All right, Tom, speaking of Americans in Mexico, we've got a couple of Americans who have made the move to Mexico out of MLS in recent times, starting out their first campaign in the Clausura. Omar Gonzalez, let's start with him. From everything I've heard, and we've had some people call in and talk about watching Pachuca play, maybe the speed of the game is a little too much for Omar, but he can make up for it with his other physical gifts.
Yeah, no, I think he's had a really good start. I mean, I think, Pachuca have only conceded twice in the first 3 games. They're sitting there on 7 points, so unbeaten. Gonzalez has played all 3 games. I think it's been considering he had a very short preseason, he came off the bat. Obviously, he wasn't in preseason at MLS with Galaxy, and then all of a sudden he comes to Pachuca, and a couple of weeks later he's actually starting in the league games. I just think it's massive. There's a lot of competition with places at centre-back at Pachuca. So just the fact that he's come in there and straight away, despite not having that pre-season, he's already starting is massive. I mean, it really was massive. And then from there, the fact that he's started, he's playing well, and the team are winning. And it's a great move. And more than anything, I think Pachuca, the last couple of seasons, have been, for me, the most exciting team in the league to watch. But they've been pretty bad in the defence. I mean, they just dominated games, and then they'll just concede a stupid goal. And I think Gonzalez has been brought in. I mean, they'll be paying him big money as well. He's been brought in to show that up, and I think it's been a really, really good move for not just for Omar Gonzalez, but also for Pachuca.
For Omar Gonzalez, it's a matter of playing well enough to playing well in Pachuca for that team's sake and winning games and winning titles, but also to impress Jurgen Klinsmann to get back into the main picture with the U.S. men's national team. For a guy like Jorge Villafaña, it's getting on that radar to begin with. He makes the move from Portland, a brilliant close to the year for him in MLS last season to help that team win an MLS Cup title. How is Jorge doing so far?
Again, I mean, it's early days, but it's been such a success story for Villafaña. I mean, this is, you looked at Santos Laguna's squad, and then Villafaña came in, and you were like, okay, he's the reserve. He's the reserve left back. Why? Because Adrián Aldrete, who has been a Mexican national team regular over the last couple of years, he's a very, very good left back. Probably Mexico's best player at the Copa America last summer, and he's been benched. Villafaña's been playing over Aldrete, which is amazing. I spoke to Santos Laguna coach Zubeldia, and he was saying, he thinks Villafaña is a very solid player. He brings in a freshness to that position. Obviously, he's got his long throw, which I think Santos have been using quite well. So Villafaña's start has been brilliant. And listen, Jason, this is going to sound maybe exaggerated, but I honestly believe it, that Mexico's friendly coming up in February, I don't think he's too far off being involved in that. I mean, you look around the Liga MX, and this is going to be only domestic-based players. You look around the league, and there's 3-4 other Mexican left backs that you think, yeah, they've got a chance. But you're like, Villafaña's just won MLS Cup. He's had a very good season with Portland. I know Santos were tracking his every game up there during the MLS season and the playoffs, and now he's suddenly come down to Santos, and he's keeping Aldrete out. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be the starter for the Mexican national team moving forward, but will Osorio be thinking about him for this game? I'm sure he will have. I definitely had to look at him. Yeah.
I'd be curious to know if either Osorio or Klinsmann have been in touch with Jorge, and if Klinsmann loses out on a fullback of that quality, certainly again it's been a couple of years of improvement for Jorge Villafaña, having been at had been the Sueño winner, had been in Chivas USA, and finally here at 26 years old, sort of impressing on this level. It hasn't. Yeah. It's been a slow burn. I think people think he came out of nowhere, but that's not the case. I hope Klinsmann has an eye on him, Tom. I'll be very disappointed if he doesn't. All right, we're running out of time here, so I'm going to move us to Luis Gil in the American parlance. Obviously, a kid who, while considerably talented and has shined for U.S. youth national teams, never really made it work at RSL, and has now moved on to Querétaro. Where is he right now in his process? Because he's only 22 at this point.
Yeah, no. Last weekend it was his first start. He played 90 minutes. 3-0 win for Querétaro against Dorados, the first win of the season for the team. So, yeah, I think he played well. An attacking midfield position, central midfield. So positive for Gil. The first week he didn't play. The second week he played for the under-20s. Scored a goal as well. So, you can see that. He's obviously again coming off without a pre-season. So. It was. Let's see this weekend if he starts again. I think he will, and he's got Victor Manuel Vucetich up there, so in Querétaro. So they've got a coach who really knows what he's doing. So I think it's if Gil's playing. I mean that's the key for all these players coming down. You have to be playing, and Gil has done.
And last thing here, because I just saw this news and I want to get your reaction. Juan Arango, the Venezuelan, is moving from Club Tijuana to the New York Cosmos. He's 35 years old. It's not a complete shock, but just give me a brief sketch of his time in Mexico and what he'll bring to New York.
I mean, he's been. I think he's done okay in Tijuana. I think they probably expected a little bit more, just because of his time in Germany. Has been a top player for Venezuela. And what does he bring? Well, he brings that left foot. I mean, some of the free kick goals that he's still capable of are pretty amazing. So
there you go. We'll see exactly. Again, this is an interesting signing for the Cosmos. They've lost that. They lost out on two legends, Raul and Marco Senna, and now they bring in Juan Arango at the age of 35, obviously a Venezuelan legend. Tom Marshall, Mexico World Cup, joining us on Soccer Morning. Fantastic as always, Tom. Next time we'll talk more about the league and the state of things, but it's pretty early in the Clausura, so plenty of time to talk about Mexican soccer.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, anytime.
There goes Tom Marshall. Good stuff from him. We'll come back. We'll open up the phone lines. Fair warning, we're out at 10 sharp today, so you got about, 19, 18 minutes to get in. Soccer Morning, WorldSoccerTalk.com.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on World Soccer Talk with Jason Davis.
All right, we're back on Soccer Morning on a Thursday. We've got phone lines open at 646-832-3909. Here in the last couple of days of January 2016. Yet we're already a month into the new year. It's hard to believe that we're already a month into the new year. MLS training camps getting underway. We obviously have Mexico hot and heavy down there. We've got some games coming up, friendlies for the United States and for Mexico. Ray is on the line from Milwaukee. Hey, Ray.
Hey, Jason, I remember 5 or 6 years ago listening to this before U.S.-Mexico game, and Ramos from ESPN, Jorge Ramos from ESPN, went out here and said that you're going to see more Chicano players or Mexican Americans go down to Mexico. And I think to an extent, if you look at the player pool, if Mexico is really seriously talking about trying to capture all of these players, if you look at the women's side, that they have gone after women who have like just one grandparent born in Mexico or one great grandparent born in Mexico. So the player pool, it's going to be vast in the next 20 years.
Wait a second. In terms of playing for the Mexican national team?
Well, just in general, getting the best talent from you can look at it from a national team perspective.
But Ray,
I'd rather look at it from a club perspective.
No. I understand. Okay, well, look, it's already happening that Mexican clubs are coming into the United States, holding tryouts, holding open showcases, and finding talent. That's happening. I think, but MLS is not going to sit still, and they shouldn't sit still. If they are, then shame on them. MLS and NASL to a large extent as well needs to be all the professional outfits in the United States need to be cognizant of the fact that they may have talented kids in their backyard. Now, if they can find a way to partner with some of these groups that are running the showcases and the tryouts, then all the better. Obviously right now those groups are interested in placing kids with Mexican teams because then they're making money on that. I mean, everything comes down to money, Ray. So if you can find a way to get money into the system from the American side, more of those kids are going to stay here.
Right, and I know that Monica Gonzalez a couple of years back wrote a really interesting article about this herself too, and so I wonder how she feels right now.
Well, some of these issues are related to the way that MLS and sort of the American rules are in place. I mean, we've been covering, and there's sort of new developments that I haven't had a chance to get into, mostly because it's kind of dry. But we've been covering that issue of training compensation for some time now. Part of the problem for American clubs was that there was no training compensation requirement. That they weren't taking that money. U.S. Soccer wasn't enforcing it. MLS wasn't paying it out when it belonged when the responsibility belonged to them. So if they weren't participating in that system, it gave Mexican clubs free reign to poach kids already in MLS academies. I mean, go read some of the stories about the LA Galaxy Academy. They've got they're holding training, and there's Mexican scouts leaning over the fence watching these kids. And, trying to get in their ear as soon as they come off the field. I mean, this is how Paul Arriola ends up at Tijuana instead of with the LA Galaxy. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing. If it's the best thing for Paul Arriola, then fine. But obviously American soccer needs to do a better job of trying to find these kids, and then keep them.
Great. I would agree with that 100%. And I know Bill asked me which team he should follow. And he's from New York, but I don't know him personally or anything like that. But I've met a lot of Yankee fans, and I've met my fair share of Club America fans. And I think the biggest compliment that you can give a Club America fan is that they act just like Yankee fans.
Okay, Ray. Fair enough. You got anything else, man?
Yeah. Oh, and if you want to root for a team that just peel off the West Coast, because I know there's East Coast West Coast rivalry, that you should root for Club Tijuana. And you know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, I think if an American soccer fan with no connection to Mexico wants to pick a team, could do way worse than Club Tijuana.
Yeah, or what I would recommend for you to do is wait to see if Atlanta ever gets back in the first division, and who doesn't want to root for a team that plays in paradise in Cancun every weekend.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's a couple of teams that play in some very nice places down in Mexico, including Atlanta. Thanks for the call, Ray. I appreciate it.
Take it easy.
There goes Ray in Milwaukee. 646-832-3909 is the phone number here. I'm going to spend some time over at SiriusXM today talking about this issue, both what Carlos Osorio said about Mexicans in their prime and not signing in MLS, and also the increasing efforts of Mexican soccer officials to push into the United States to find that Mexican-American talent. And rather than sort of lament this, and look, you can't begrudge Mexican clubs and the Mexican national team program for trying to identify players no matter where they come from. You know, the impetus, the responsibility lies at the feet of U.S. Soccer, MLS, and NASL, specifically because they are the three major entities running things here in this country, to find the kids, to identify the talent, to put them in the right program, to develop them, and then give them a chance. As Tom Marshall said, part of the problem we have is that there's no clear path here for any kid, much less a player who comes out of maybe a poverty situation, maybe just a hard scrabble life. Oh, let's go sign up with the academy. Okay, which one do we sign up with? We go down to Mexico, sign up with one of those academies, or do we sign with the academy in MLS? Not sign, but join. Oh, well, if we join the MLS academy, what's the end game? Well, maybe we can get to college if we get a scholarship, or maybe there's just nothing there. We get to 18 years old and it's over. There's no place to go. Now, MLS teams have the USL teams available that should help them bridge some of the gaps. But when you're in Mexico, there's a much clearer possibility of making your way into the first team and getting on the field and showing what you can do and getting the better contracting. Next thing you know, either you're in Europe or you're a star within that team. That stuff, because you have to give every player reason to believe that they can be a star in your system or they're not going to stick around. Why would you? They will look for a better option. It's incumbent, and this is why it's important that the New York Red Bulls give the kids that they signed to senior contracts out of their academy playing time. It's important that they give those kids an opportunity in short order. It's important what Oscar Pereira is doing in Dallas. It's important that L.A. and Portland. Well, Portland doesn't have L.A. and San Jose. Whatever. It's important that and obviously Seattle with Jordan Morris. It's important that they give these kids an opportunity to shine. Let's talk to Roberto in Connecticut. Remember, we're out at 10 on the dot. So Roberto, we're going to keep it relatively short. What's on your mind?
Yeah. I just have one question. It's about obviously the possible transfer of Matt Miazga to Chelsea. Number one, do you think that this is a good move in the sense that in the sense of what the United States national team is able to be capable of? And two, do you think that this is a con on MLS in terms of their development and as well as the New York Red Bulls trying to find a replacement?
I mean, it hurts the Red Bulls from a practical standpoint. And look, we have to get past, and I said this yesterday on both shows, that, yeah, I'm guilty of being big picture guy. I want to look big picture, but sometimes that's the wrong place to go. Sometimes it's a red herring to look at every single move as a big picture indicator of where we're headed. For the Red Bulls, it's a practical problem to fill the hole left by Matt Miazga, who was very good last year, right? For MLS, there's no question. If a team like Chelsea comes in and wants to buy a player, a 20-year-old player with one real season of professional experience under his belt, $4 or $5 million or whatever it is, you have to do that. You have to participate in the global market. You have to use that money and put it back into your system. That's how the process works. And MLS is not going to be a buying league for quite some time unless they use money like that to help them get to that point. As for the national team, Roberto, if he plays, this is a good thing. Now, he's going to get some senior level training time because they're not going to loan him out until the beginning of 2016-17 at the very earliest. So I think it's a bad thing he's not going to have actual game time unless he plays for Chelsea, and it's hard to imagine. But on the other level, he's going to take a step up in regular intensity, and that could benefit the U23s. I mean, I think Matt Miazga's path is still to a starting position for the U.S. men's national team in 2018. I don't think this changes that at all.
No, absolutely. And you look at the differences in the intensity of training compared to what the New York Red Bulls have been giving him, and as well when he's going to Europe, depends on whatever club he goes. Doesn't matter if he goes on loan at Chelsea or actually trains with the first team. It's still an experience, and it could take something into consideration when suiting up for the United States national team in various friendlies and World Cup qualifiers.
Yeah, absolutely. Roberto, I got to run. Appreciate the call.
No, thanks,
Sorry.
Jason.
Roberto's point there, I got a little distracted. Our friend Bo Durr on Twitter saying that one California youth coach recently talked, I think, with Soccer America about the false promises of Mexican academies. Kids back to California. There may be, and it would do well for MLS not only to identify and bring through some young Mexican American talent, but also if there is a facade to be broken down in terms of the promises of the Mexican academies, then they need to do that. But I don't think, and nothing, this isn't what Bo is saying, but if American soccer engages in a negative campaign towards Mexican soccer, that's really not self-defeating, but it doesn't do them any good. They need to improve their process. Let's go to Nelly down in Texas. Hey, Nelly.
Hey, Jason. I think Osorio was really being honest with his comments. Every coach wants their players to be in the top team. Now, the question comes, like, if you have a player in the Scottish League or the Turkish League, would it be better than MLS? And,
right.
If a top Mexican player or a top European player comes to MLS and he just kills it and becomes the MVP, don't you think he would still be called by their national team?
Yeah, I mean, as Tom said, Nelly, there's only so much depth to be had for Mexico. It's a good team with a lot of attacking talent, but they aren't Brazil, they aren't Argentina, and they need to maximize what they've got. If Vela came here and scored, I mean, obviously it depends on what team he comes to, the environment, a whole lot of things. But if Carlos Vela came here and put up Sebastian Giovinco numbers, he's 100% in the Mexican national team. There's no doubt about that.
Right. And, Mexican, I also think that Osorio kind of gets influenced to say what the Mexican media wants to say. And, you have South American players that play in Liga MX and are still called out by the national team.
You're suggesting that maybe he's pandering a little bit?
Yeah, that he's trying to say the right thing.
Yeah,
that's
not beyond the realm of possibility. Yeah, that's not beyond the realm of possibility, Nelly. But as you said, I mean, it seems pretty clear that there's an honesty here, and yeah, he's generalizing when he says Europe, and it's the same thing that Jurgen Klinsmann does, Europe. But if you sat those guys down, both of those coaches, and you said, here's one of your talented players, would you rather have him play in MLS or in Denmark, or MLS, or in Norway? I mean, that's Europe, but we know that's not what they mean. What they mean is Spain, Italy, Germany, England. That's what they mean. Maybe France. They don't mean the entirety of Europe. Unless Osorio is going to that same place that Klinsmann does with the amount of pressure and the living and breathing and the comfort zone stuff. I mean, certainly Mexico, it's an intense environment for the stars, and these players have a lot of pressure on them, but it's definitely still their comfort zone.
Right. Hey, I wanted to mention another thing, too. It's not a big surprise Fox got Copa America. I mean, no. ESPN is going to have the Euros. And a big month for June, if you think about it. You're going to have the Euros in the mornings and afternoons, and then you're going to have Copa America at night. Talk about soccer.
I know. We're all going to... I said we're going to overdose. It's probably not possible, but, the summer that's coming up is going to be quite the summer in so many different ways, Nelly. And again, MLS is going to take a 2-week break, but they're going to play some games during these tournaments too. So, trying to keep a grasp on all of these things. And then you've got the Olympics this summer as well. That's not June. That's post-June, luckily, because I think our brains would explode if we had to keep track of the Olympics at the same time as we're following Copa America and the European Championships. But you go from those two tournaments immediately. Well, not immediately. I don't know what the Olympic schedule is. Sometimes it's July and sometimes it's August. Is it August this year? I don't know.
It could be August because summer in Brazil is around wintertime here, so I haven't really looked at that. And then
it's August.
Hey, for the guys that don't have cable, you still have Univision.
Yeah,
all you're going to hear is coverage of Mexico, but hey, you still get games.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, in the group stages, we're going to have a bunch of games happening around the same time, and we'll see how Fox juggles that. But as you said, there's always options on the Spanish language side as well. Nelly, appreciate the phone call, man. Thanks a lot.
Hey,
there goes Nelly down in Texas. All right, so we're going to wrap up this edition of Soccer Morning. Again, just have to get out of here at the top of the hour. Thank you very much to everybody who called in. Thank you to Tom Marshall, Mexico World Cup. Fantastic. You have to go follow him on Twitter. The man does an excellent job of covering Mexican soccer. We've got some incredible Mexican soccer resources on this show very regularly with Eric Gomez and Tom Marshall, like dynamic duo, those two. So yeah, go follow Tom. We'll continue. I'll continue this discussion about Juan Carlos Osorio and everything else on Sirius XM FC channel 85. So if you have it, you should be listening. We'll see you guys tomorrow here on Soccer Morning.